Welcome to 10-Minute Zuimonki. One day Dōgen taught, saying, "In the continued biographies of eminent monks, there is a story about a monk who practiced under a meditation master. This monk revered golden Buddha statues and relics. Whenever he stayed in the monk's hall, he would worship them, burning incense, making prostrations, and offering gifts. One day the meditation master said to him, 'Your devotion to these golden images and relics will not benefit you in the end.' But the monk would not listen. The master continued, 'That is the dwelling place of a demon. Get rid of it at once.' Angered by these words, the monk prepared to leave. Then the teacher called after him, 'Open the box in which you keep those statues and relics and look inside.' Still furious, the monk opened the box. Looking inside, he saw a coiled poisonous snake lying at the bottom. Remember this story well. Although Buddha images and relics are representations of the Buddha and the remains of his body, and though they deserve our reverence, it is mistaken to believe that they alone constitute the path to realization. Such a belief can make one prey to demons and lead to being bitten by a poisonous snake. The Buddhist scriptures teach that there is merit in venerating Buddha images and relics. Human beings and heavenly beings who worship them receive blessings, just as if they were paying homage to Shakyamuni Buddha himself. It is true that by honoring the three treasures, we erase past wrongdoing and accumulate merit. We eliminate the causes that lead to rebirth in unfortunate realms and plant the seeds for rebirth among humans and heavenly beings. But to believe that enlightenment is attained through such practices alone is a mistaken view. Since being a child of the Buddha means practicing according to his teaching and striving to realize the state of Buddhahood, you should simply follow the instruction of your teacher and devote yourselves wholeheartedly to practice. The authentic practice that accords with this teaching, and which forms the very heart of practice in this monastery, is nothing other than just sitting. Keep this well in mind." On another occasion, Dōgen taught, "It is proper to observe the precepts and the regulations concerning meals, but to regard these as the most important thing, and to base one's practice upon them in the hope of attaining the way through them, is also a mistake. We follow them simply because they are the customs of those who are children of the Buddha and the daily conduct of monks wearing the patched robes. There is nothing wrong in this. What is wrong is treating them as the most urgent matter. This does not mean that one may break the precepts or abandon a discipline. To do so is to stray onto an outside path and cling to a false view. We observe them because they are the etiquette of the Buddha family and the customs of the monastery. When I lived in the monasteries of Song China, I did not see the monks make them their primary practice. If you truly wish to attain the way, devote yourselves exclusively to just sitting transmitted by the Buddhas and ancestors. For this reason, I instructed Gokombo, a disciple of the late Abbot Esai, with whom I practiced in the same monastery, to stop spending all day reciting the Precept Sutra and rigidly observing meal regulations." At this point, Ejo asked, "As for the conduct of those who practice the way in a monastery, should they not follow Hyakujo's pure regulations? Does not the instruction itself say, 'Receiving and observing the precepts is fundamental'? Moreover, in the transmission inherited from the Buddhas and ancestors, the fundamental precepts are indeed conferred. In the oral transmission between teacher and disciple at this monastery, practitioners receive the precepts that come from the West, namely the Bodhisattva precepts. And does not the Precept Sutra itself say, 'Recite them day and night'? Why then did you tell him to stop?" Dōgen replied, "That is exactly so. Those who practice the way should indeed rely upon Hyakujo's pure regulations. According to them, one should follow the monastery's etiquette, observe the precepts, and practice just sitting. To recite the precepts day and night and observe them completely is nothing other than following the example of the ancients, and this itself is just sitting. Is there any precept that is not observed during just sitting? Is there any merit that does not arise from just sitting? The spirit of the way practiced by the ancients is unfathomable. Do not allow yourself to become self-satisfied. Simply follow the assembly and practice, relying upon the example of those who came before us." Today's passage addresses a question that has existed throughout Buddhist history, namely, what is the heart of practice? Dōgen begins by telling a story about a monk who deeply revered Buddha statues and relics. He burned incense before them, made offerings, and bowed to them with great devotion. At first glance, this seems admirable. After all, Buddhism has always encouraged respect for the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Yet the monk's teacher warned him. He said, "This will not benefit you in the end." The monk was shocked. How could reverence for the Buddha be a problem? But the teacher saw something that the monk could not see. The issue was not the statues. The issue was attachment. The monk had come to believe that these objects themselves were the path. He had mistaken a support for the practice itself. That is why, in the story, the teacher eventually reveals a poisonous snake hidden in the box where the monk kept his treasured objects. The snake is a powerful symbol. It represents attachment disguised as devotion. Something that appears religious on the outside but secretly nourishes delusion within. Dōgen then makes an important clarification. He does not say that worshipping Buddha images is wrong. He does not say that paying respect to relics is useless. In fact, he explicitly says that such practices create merit. They help cultivate gratitude and reverence. They support our faith. But they are not enlightenment itself. And this brings us to the central point of the passage. Dōgen says that the authentic practice of the Buddha way is just sitting. Again and again throughout his writings, Dōgen returns to this point. Not because he rejects other forms of practice, not because rituals are bad, and not because precepts are unnecessary, but because he believes that Zazen is the place where the whole way is directly embodied. The second half of the passage makes this even clearer. Dōgen speaks about precepts, meal regulations, and monastic discipline. These things are important. They are part of the life of the monastery. They help create order and harmony. But Dōgen warns against turning them into the main goal. A person can become obsessed with rules, obsessed with doing everything correctly, obsessed with external forms, and in the process lose sight of the reason those forms exist in the very first place. This is not only a problem in monasteries, it can happen anywhere. In religion, we sometimes become attached to rituals. In study, we become attached to knowledge. In our meditation, we become attached to techniques. We begin focusing on the finger pointing at the moon instead of the moon itself. Dōgen's concern is that we not lose the essence. That is why he tells a story of a monk who spent all day reciting the Precept Sutra and carefully observing regulations. One might expect Dōgen to praise him. Instead, he advised him to stop. Why? Not because reciting the sutra was bad, but because it had become disconnected from the living heart of practice. The monk was concentrating on one branch while neglecting the root. Then Ejo asks an important question. If the precepts are so important, why not devote oneself entirely to them? Dōgen says that when one truly practices Zazen, the precepts are already present. When one sits wholeheartedly, one is not turning away from the precepts. One is embodying them. This reflects one of Dōgen's deepest insights. Practice is not a collection of separate activities. The way is not divided into meditation over here, ethics over there, and wisdom somewhere else. In genuine practice, these are inseparable. When body and mind settle into wholehearted sitting, the entire Buddha way is present. Toward the end of the passage, Dōgen gives one final piece of advice. Do not become self-satisfied. This may be the most important warning of all. Whatever our practice may be, we are always tempted to think, I have understood, I am doing enough, I have found the right method. The moment we cling to such thoughts, practice becomes stagnant. Instead, Dōgen tells us to continue practicing alongside others and to follow the example of those who came before us. So perhaps the question this passage leaves us with is simple. What is the heart of your practice? Is it a ritual, a belief, or a technique? Or is it the direct and wholehearted engagement with the way itself? For Dōgen, everything has its place. But the heart of practice is not found in what we possess, what we recite, or even what we believe. It is found in the living act of practice itself. Thank you for listening. Until next time.